Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and today it's the end of August and I've brought you along to June Blake's fantastic garden here in Wicklow, Ireland. Now, we've already visited Jimmy Blake's Huntingbrook garden, and June is in fact Jimmy's sister, but do not let that detract from your appreciation of her garden, because June does not by any means sit in Jimmy's shadow. She's a force unto herself, and her style of gardening is something that so many Irish gardeners have come to absolutely love. Wait till you see her reds here today. They're fantastic. So come with me and let's have a look at June Blake's fantastic garden. Let's get on with the video. Today we're visiting June Blake's award-winning garden in County Wicklow, Ireland. This garden is full of dynamic colour, whether you visit in spring, summer or late summer. We've visited before, and in fact I have a whole playlist on my channel which shows June's beautiful garden at different times of year and over several years. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check that out. Today we're going to talk to June about the layout of her garden, her key plants in the borders, by season, and her top plants right now. We'll also see how June's newest deadheading tool helps her keep her flower display on the road right into autumn. Unfortunately, June seems to be busy with a group right now, so we'll take a little look around before we talk to her. This garden is just over 3 acres, that's 1.2 hectares in size, although large sections of it are put over to meadow. It incorporates the old and the new, and has been described both as an Irish country garden as well as a stylishly modern space. The reflective pool is perhaps the most iconic part of the garden, although I do believe that recently June's little dog has taken to paddling in it. I think June is ready to talk to us now about the history of her garden.
Well, I suppose basically this was a sheep field until about 2004 or 5, and originally it was a nursery and then became a proper garden, I think. But we designed the garden around the house, as you can just see it up there. And it's an old steward's house built in 1860. So everything is in grids and straight lines, kind of taking the reference points from the lines of the house and the sharp corners of the house. And each bed looks formally laid out and then is very informally planted.
Tell us, June, which are your star performing plants in August?
This time of the year is mainly dahlias from seed. So we kind of label our dahlias as they come into flower, so they're all yellow down there. And these ones here are various shades of red and orange. And then the Monarda here, Jacob Klein, which is a really good Monarda, doesn't get mildew. And earlier on in the season, this was full of alliums and the foliage of the dahlias coming through, and before that full of tulips. Every bed was full of tulips with slightly different colour scheme. Yeah, it's not a huge area, but it's very densely planted. We don't do any staking. The plants kind of, if they don't stay standing, that's tough. That's a very tall plant, Silphium perfoliatum. Could be 10 foot, you know, and behind that is a huge bamboo. The very fine foliage bits you see are this year's growth, and they grew in the last 6 weeks. So they would have grown maybe 20 foot in 6 weeks. Incredible growth. So this is handy, it backs onto the bamboo, which is yellow as well. And then I don't have yellow anywhere down there at all. And we have a small patch of yellow up here as well, which is kind of nice and kind of wild. And the rest out in the field is meadow.
Fantastic. And you look like you're set for battle with that instrument in your hand.
Yeah, it's like a little Uzi machine gun, isn't it? But it's very handy, long-handled secateurs. And you can imagine to reach into some of the plants in there and up here, the very tall ones, I'd need a ladder. Anyway, I'll get myself in here. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I might as well be doing something useful. Yeah, I haven't done these for a while, so.
June's long-handled secateurs is really handy for deadheading tall dahlias and other perennials. The trick to keeping your plants flowering as long as possible is deadheading. Plants want to produce seed, but that can only happen after flowers fade. So by removing the faded flowers before they can produce seed, plants are prompted to try again by making new flowers.
If I don't get them at the bottom, I'm not that worried. I just get as many deadheaded as possible.
And where did you get that tool, June?
I got it in the Quinn's Glass farm shop down the road.
A farm shop?
A farm shop, yeah. It's
Is it for picking apple? No, it's
no Kent and Stowe. It's a long-handled secateurs. Yeah. It is really handy, like. Get that one. It's a bit windy. Now, where else? There's one there. If I can get that guy. And that. And there. Imagine the damage I'd be doing if I was walking in there. You know. Yeah, it's not bad. That's most of them done there. There's a great big nettle in there too.
Now, can you get out again?
Oh, I can get out. I'm pretty good at getting out. And I'll do a few of these ones here. They're kind of that dark one. This is Ligularia Rising Sun. This one. It's one of the nice Ligularias actually. And this is what do you call that one? Fantasia or something like that. I've taken out all the other Ligularias actually. They're just the leaves are too big. I've gone off big leaves. But I've gone for distinct colour bands this year. All red the whole way, red and orange and yellow. And then did you see down there? You know, yeah, but you know canna panache. You know canna panache. So many people don't. But anyway, it's a peculiar colour. It's yellowy, pinky, reddy. So there was a dahlia I could never place. And then last year I said, that's the dahlia for down there. And it's an unusual colour, but it's actually working really well. And I had a white Veronicastrum, which was wrong. And they were in full flower, and I cut them all down a couple of days ago.
Excellent.
Chop, 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 and it's much better.
I think June is a lot more dedicated than I ever could be to the garden's aesthetic. I find it impossible to cut down plants in full flower, even if they're just annuals, but I guess a certain determination, ruthlessness almost, is necessary to have a garden with such beautifully defined colour schemes as June's. We've looked a lot at dahlias so far, and June's seed-grown ones that produce single flowers. I have talked a lot about dahlias from seed on my channel, how you can easily collect seed, and when sown on heat in March, you'll get flowers the very same year. Let this beautiful display be the inspiration for you to try it out for yourself, just as it was originally for me. But putting dahlias aside, let's take a few moments now and have a look at some of the other perennials doing so well in this garden. You'll note a lot of different monardas or bee balm, not just the variety called Jacob Klein, which June recommended earlier. There are eryngiums too, with their spiky silver foliage. How interesting to see moisture-loving monarda grown alongside the eryngium that likes its soil well drained. Besides monarda, there's another North American favourite, the coneflower or echinacea. A less well-known perennial is this beautiful white Selenium willicianum, not to be confused with the annual Ami. And there are even some late flowering alliums to be seen. Alliums are in the onion family, and we usually associate them with early summer flowering. But check out these interesting late flowers. But it's not all full sun perennials in this garden. There are shadier sections with winding paths and plants that rely on their beautiful foliage to earn their keep. Such a calming space to sit and have an in-depth look around. In a garden like this, there are always layers of detail that are often overlooked. But on to more practical considerations. I want to quiz June about the important issues of watering and fertilising in a garden this size.
Nothing else there. There's loads to be deadheaded there.
And have you been watering this bed with the hot weather we've had recently?
No. You can see a bit of suffering there. But the dahlias seem to be okay. The soil is good. And the only thing I've watered here would be something I just planted. That's it.
And you enrich your soil then in spring, is that right?
And you use the right word. I spread on enrich. I buy that compost because it's clean and organic and lovely to spread. So we get a trailer load, a lorry load. We spread it over the whole thing just around tulip time. So you can see what you're doing just before the tulips bloom. And then I use soil renew, that stuff.
Yes, yeah.
I find it great. It's handy, you see. I can do the whole garden in half an hour. Right.
Whereas if you're shoveling horse manure,
takes
really
ages,
heavy.
And you do a lot of damage. Yeah. And actually, the way we spread the enrich this year, Ned, who does a lot of work for me, got a little quad and a trailer and about 6 or 7 bags, filled them with the compost, and then walked in with the bags as if you were feeding sheep. Much better than shoveling, because they're wide beds, and he could see what he was doing. Did it he must have got 20 tons of it,
This area of the garden intrigues me. Why the dip? Why the cobbles? Let's ask June.
Yeah, this was covered with about 4 feet of soil, and we then decided to put a kind of a sunken box into the garden, and we were finishing that job when we found a tiny little circle of cobblestones, and we then realised we excavated it. It stops there, but it would have originally gone right up the hill, and it finishes here, which it was at the very bottom, the old road to Dublin. And we had a serious drainage problem here, and it luckily ends in a big drain. So we always had a problem. That goes up to 1,000 feet behind us, and the water comes down the hill, and this would build up high here. So it's fantastic, and it's exactly as we found it. We didn't repair it. We didn't do anything to it. There's a few little bits. And then we used the, it's not corten steel, it's ordinary steel, sheets of steel to form a wall. And we tried to use kind of copper-toned plants, or rusty-toned plants. Springtime, a lot of snowdrops, ruby snowdrops here. And the geranium is espresso, which is a nice coloured leaf. And a lot of acers, of course, and then the great big boulders down at the bottom, and in behind them is Lilium henryi. So it's kind of fall, but it falls kind of on the boulders. It's a gorgeous lily, a very elegant lily, but tall and elegant. And the boulders just came from the fields across the way, yeah. And that plant, a lot of people wonder what that is. It's Acina. And it's just a lovely sort of feeling. It stays green all the time.
How wonderful to have this road as a piece of history in your garden. An original cobbled road dating right back to well before 1820. I could tell it presented you with logistical challenges, but how magical to incorporate this heritage into the landscape of the garden. But I do have a question about the circular stone pieces that are used as steps down to the cobbled path. Do they have a history?
And the round stones are interesting because they would have been used around Wicklow for stacking corn or hay on. So you had a standing stone, a round stone, more stones going like this, and then on top of that you built your rick of hay or whatever, corn usually, and the circular stones stopped vermin from coming up, you know, so the stuff was safe, it was off the ground and it dried. So in small farmyards all over Wicklow, because we had so much granite, you'll find a circle of stones, and that's what it was used for.
And now we're coming to the end of our visit to June Blake's garden in Wicklow, Ireland. A visit here is always a treat, and I always discover something new and wonderful. I hope you've loved this garden as much as I do, and if you ever come to Ireland, don't miss the opportunity to visit. I've linked to June's website in the video description below. On Sunday, you can expect my next video, one of the Sunday shorter ones, and this time it's about sowing annual cornflowers in autumn for bigger plants the following year. Next Thursday, I offer you one of my longer videos. It'll be a tour of my greenhouses where we check out how some of my rarer plants are doing, but also the annuals I've sown for next year. I'm currently bubble wrapping my glass house, the one with the permanent collection, so I'd better get on with it. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!